Revenge of the Nerds, released in 1984 and is directed by Jeff Kanu, who's also directed such films like Gotcha, Tough Guys, and Troop Beverly Hills. And this film is starring Robert Carradine, Anthony Edwards, Ted McGinley, Julia Montgomery, Timothy Busfield, Curtis Armstrong, John Goodman, and Bernie Casey. Gilbert and Lewis are freshmen on campus of Adams College, and they plan on making their college experience the best they possibly can make it. However, when the football jocks burn down their fraternity house, they're allowed to kick all the freshmen out of the freshman dorms because, again, they're the football jocks and they feel that they can do whatever they want because, again, they're jocks. So now Lewis and Gilbert try to rally up the troops of all the other nerds who are forced to live in the gymnasium, and they attempt to start a fraternity of their own so that they can bring justice to all the freshmen and all the nerds on campus who are being overlooked. This is one of those films that is a staple of the network Comedy Central. I feel like this film was playing every single weekend at one point throughout the 24-hour period at some point in the weekend. And that's where I first saw this film. I had no idea where it was, but all of a sudden it popped up, and it's these college nerds who are going off, they're freshmen, and they're just trying to get laid, and I would want to say, like, the first time I watched this was probably junior or senior year in high school, so that idea of a story really connected with me, because all I wanted to do was, go off to college, and, you know, the other things. So I probably started watching this movie purely out of pubescent reasons, but after watching it all the way through, I just realized that, no, this is just a solid comedy that is perfect from beginning to end. The juxtaposition between the nerd characterizations and how they portray themselves, their body language, and how they go out and speak to people, as opposed to the jocks and all the muscle heads and all the football players. It's a beautiful contrast. It's an 80s comedy, so of course the contrast is extreme. You don't see these far end of the spectrum this much, in my opinion, I guess in my experience in college. But in any public school system, at least back in the 80s and the 90s, when I was growing up, there was always a rift between the people who were at school to study and get good grades, then there were the other people who were there to, play football, and because they played football, they were seen as the hot shit in school. Could this movie and these archetypes be made nowadays? No, probably not. At least not to the extent that they did in the 80s. See, back in the 80s, you can be as raunchy and as filthy and as sexually assaulty as you want to in your comedy. Just as long as you saw the female form on screen, that was totally fine back then. Nowadays, absolutely not. This type of stuff would not cut it, at least in a mainstream film like this one. My mind keeps going back to 21 Jump Street and how the old cops went back and were disguising themselves as high school students, and everyone there was actually being polite to each other and accepting for who they are, and actually being a nerd was actually kind of cool. And they're like, what the fuck is going on here? So no, this movie would not be made today, but I'm glad it was made back in the 80s, because whenever I watch this, it puts a smile on my face. Robert Carradine and Anthony Edwards, I think, have great chemistry with each other as Gilbert and Lewis, and how they just play up the the wardrobe of the nerd. First off, they got the pen pocket here, they have the glasses, they have the slicked over hair, they have the pants that go all the way up to their armpits, just how they carry themselves, the laugh that they have, it's just freaking great. But I love that they choose to use their brains and their nerdiness for good use, not just try to up the ante with bullying the jocks because they're being bullied by the jocks themselves. No, they're standing up for a cause of not just defending themselves, but anyone who is considered different in the eyes of the mainstream society. Whether you're a nerd, a reject, a degenerate, whether you're homosexual, whether you're heterosexual, it doesn't matter. And those labels, those classifications shouldn't determine your status of where you're at in a culture and where you're at in a society. You are just who you are, and you shouldn't apologize, and you shouldn't hide yourself because of who you are, and you shouldn't be ashamed of who you are. At least that's Gilbert's mindset. Lewis is really just one big horn dog. The best line in the movie by far is after he is done satisfying Betty Childs, he says, well, jocks, all they think about is sports. Us nerds, all we think about is sex. Yeah. Words to live by, in my opinion. Revenge of the Nerds is a wonderful 80s comedy that still holds up, in my opinion, today. Could this film be made today with today's standards in social media and what things are accepted in society now? Oh no, absolutely not. But for someone who grew up with this movie, I have tremendous nostalgia for this. All the pratfalls, all the high comedy here hits with me, lands with me. I absolutely love watching this movie whenever it's on. I'm gonna give Revenge of the Nerds 4 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I like it a lot.
So guys, if you've seen Revenge of the Nerds, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across because of this video, then comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I'm releasing my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.